Do you have any issues understanding the different types of business objectives in order to understand why firms may choose to revenue maximize instead of the traditional profit maximization? We're also going to look at how this applies to exam questions and how you could use it in order to strengthen possibly evaluations in your upcoming exams. Stay tuned. Hey guys, we're going to look at revenue maximization today. It's a fairly straightforward business objective, and as you know, there are more than one business objective. As a reminder, obviously, apart from revenue maximization, which we're looking at today, there's also profit maximization, profit satisficing, there is sales revenue maximization, and these are different types of objectives that we can use as firms depending on the strategies that the firm wishes to take forward. Classical economics will say that most firms look to profit maximize, but we know that some firms don't look to do that. And for today, we're going to look at revenue maximization and see why firms may want to revenue maximize instead of profit maximization. The diagram, it looks like a supernormal profit diagram, and essentially it is a supernormal profit diagram, but the production point is not where MC equals MR. Generally, you can draw all objectives on one diagram. If you are running out of time or time is limited, for example, in your kind of 25 marker essay question, you can draw all the production points on one graph, but it's entirely up to you and how you judge how much time that you have. Revenue maximization is fairly straightforward. So why do some firms choose to revenue maximize and not profit maximize? Well, it really comes down to the type of strategy the firm is looking to implement. So with revenue maximization, the first thing to understand here is that the production point is different. It's where the MR equals 0. Where the marginal revenue is 0, that's where we have our maximum amount of profit. And on our diagram over here, that's going to happen at section B. The marginal revenue curve just crosses the x-axis. At that point, we say revenue is maximized, or at that point rather, we say that marginal revenue is 0, and therefore revenue is being maximized. If you was to draw in a total revenue curve, what you realize is that the peak of the total revenue curve, okay, would be at that point there, point B. So where the total revenue curve is a N-shaped curve, the peak of it would be in line when the marginal revenue is 0. And that's why we say when MR equals 0, total revenues are maximized. Well, we have to understand that with large to medium-sized firms, generally the owner of the firm isn't working at the firm themselves. Most of the times for smaller to medium firms, that can happen where the owner is working in the firm themselves. But with larger firms where they're listed on the stock exchange, generally the owners will not be working there and have managers doing the job for them, kind of taking their interest into account while running the business or the firm. And so with divorce of ownership and control, it's important to understand that sometimes objectives of the different stakeholders can be different. For example, shareholders essentially want maximum profit, but managers and directors may have a different interest at hand, which solely focuses on their interest. For example, including higher wages, better fringe benefits. Workers in the company also may expect better fringe benefits and higher wages. All of these stakeholders have some type of interest in the firm, but each one has a different interest for themselves. And so divorce of ownership control can be an important factor. Let's run through the different types of issues that we have for revenue maximization. So as we said before, marginal revenue is where the maximum revenue occurs, and that's where MR equals 0, and that's at the production point just there. The greater the sales revenue are, the greater the manager's or director's salary. So again, the objective of shareholders, the people who own the firm, is to maximize their profits, because what they want is higher dividends in return for their investments. Whereas managers might want higher wages. And how do they achieve that? Well, if salaries are linked to the amount of sales revenue, then this could be the main focus for managers and directors. They're looking to sell as much as they can in order to grow the size of the firm. If they grow the size of the firm by a large amount, then the reward for that would be higher wages or commission, okay, or better fringe benefits. And this is why there can be an issue in terms of what the shareholders want and what the managers want. There's a conflict of interest there. So the increasing size of the firm, which happens through managers increasing the amount of sales revenue for the company would justify the pay awards that managers receive. That's the way they say, well, look, we deserve a pay rise because we've just been able to sell much more this year than last year. Force of ownership and control, okay, essentially is letting us know that, you know, owners of the company are not directly involved in the day-to-day operations. Instead, managers and directors take care of the day-to-day operations. And with divorce of ownership and control, what we have to understand is that because managers may have different objectives, sometimes profits are being sacrificed. So what I want to do now is just take a look at where originally profit maximization occurs. This is where MC equals MR at this point here. Okay, we take that up to price P star, and the cost is at C star, and therefore this box here represents, so P star, C star, okay, and these 2 points here, so that rectangle box represents the maximum amount of profit. If we then look at revenue maximization, which is at point OB in terms of the output, if we take that up to the demand curve, average revenue demand curve, we can see that there's a new price, a much lower price of P1, and the cost is the same in this case because it's quite a shallow cost curve. And so what you can see that there is a sacrifice of profits. We are losing a little bit of profits from profit maximization, and we are now sacrificing that in order for managers to increase their salaries through more sales revenue. Okay, and again, we are growing the size of the firm, so this could be a very short-term goal, because managers, once they've revenue maximized, they may then revert back to profit maximization once they've achieved their own goals. So it can work out for both managers and shareholders as well. But do understand that there is some element of sacrificing of profits, and what's been sacrificed essentially is some of the supernormal profits. And when we're revenue maximizing, what we're saying essentially is that firms are now making some normal profit and they're making some abnormal profit. They're making both. And finally, directors, managers do not always share the same objectives as shareholders. So again, repeating that point where we're saying that managers generally do have the same interest as shareholders, because at the end of the day, profits are important. If not enough profits are being made, then this is a concern, because it could lead to mergers or even worse, takeovers. And the last thing the firm wants is to be taken over because it's not making enough profit to survive in the industry. So even though profits are important, what we're saying is that sometimes managers can have different objectives, and wages would be the most important thing for them, or a commission, or an increase in fringe benefits. There is a conflict of interest, and that can be resolved if the shareholders and managers get together to discuss what the issues really are. Okay, so revenue maximization can lead to an increased size of the firm. The increased size of the firm can actually build up market share, and that's always a good thing for revenue maximization. When market share is increasing, that would represent more market power for this firm. If that's the case, in the long run, they can revert back to profit maximization as there may be less competition in the market. All right, just to highlight again where profits are being made for revenue maximization. So we take the point MR equals 0, take it up to the demand curve to get the price P1. At that point, we bring it down to the cost, take it over to C star, and then what you notice is your level of normal and abnormal profit. So you're receiving some normal and some abnormal profit when you are revenue maximizing. Okay, finally, just to evaluate revenue maximization, what you may want to say here is that shareholders may offer managers a different type of incentive. So rather than linking salaries to the amount of sales that are being created, what shareholders could do is actually link managers' wages with the amount of profit. So a more consistent way of doing that is by actually offering managers shares in the company if a certain level of profit is being made, or if they're focusing on profit maximization. So this may obviously change the incentive of those managers. Rather than revenue maximizing, they may look to instead profit maximize, as this will then give them ownership in the company by being offered shares in the company. So that's a nice way to evaluate revenue maximization. Okay, hope this video was helpful. If it was, please subscribe, please like, and please send me some messages about other videos that you'd like to see.